Hey all, this is 01 and
Jherick the Jackass, I have returned.
we are coming at you with Jherick's take and another bit of a big, well, is my notes still flying everywhere? Is another big review for Twin Peaks. As you guys remember, did a somewhat short, long review. Sorry, it made it to 19 minutes, but there was quite a bit to mention with
Mm.
episode 4, The One Armed Man. And Jherick is here to give you his takes since I gave my takes and review on it yesterday. So take us away, Jherick, and I will chime in.
Hey, a one-armed man, an episode about a one-armed man with no Tommy Lee Jones. Oh, somebody gets that joke, I guarantee
Well,
it.
you should also say, hey, Harrison Ford as well. Wingo.
Yeah, yeah. Where's the scene where Cooper dives off the Hoover Dam? I'm
Well,
so
that would actually been him. Stop. And then I didn't kill my wife. I don't care.
I didn't kill Laura Palmer. I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was another great episode. Oh,
Well,
we're
real,
gonna.
really quick, I can see it wherever he says that he takes a drink of coffee in the sewer system. Damn fine coffee. Ah! Shit, I should have took that drink of coffee. Go ahead, go ahead.
Doogie wants to shoot the criminal and drink the coffee.
Go ahead.
But yeah, this was another great episode, and boy, did they set up a lot of shit in this one.
Oh, that's what I mentioned too, yeah.
Like, I mean, number one, of course, we get to see more of Philip Jeffries and just how fucked Cooper's gonna be. Because
No, we don't. Where Philip Jeffries come in?
oh, sorry, I was thinking about the one we saw at Zombie JLT1's house last night.
Yeah. No worry. A little far ahead there, buddy.
Yeah, see, the lodge influence is already affecting my mind.
Ooh.
I'm already ahead of myself, or maybe behind. Is it past or is it present?
Is it future or is it past?
But
You guys will get it.
yeah, eventually, yeah. But we get to see the continuing evolution of Twin Peaks, Mr. Pesto and Andy, and boys, that can be fun to watch down the road too.
Well, yeah. Well. Not only that, to give you a sense of to remember what episode 4 was, it's where they're interviewing Jacoby about Laura, where he can't give up
Right.
much about the patient confidentiality. Gordon Cole calls in for the very first time, telling him that Laura had the bite marks of the bird on her body, and that Albert was suing Harry S. Truman. And also that, if you remember, Jocelyn is spying on Catherine Martell and Ben at the
Yeah.
motel. They find the one-armed man at the motel, and that led to the veterinary pet store, to where they found the information in the bird Waldo that was connected to Jacques Renault. Bobby frames Jacques Renault with Leo's jacket because he found out
Uh,
Jacques Renault and Leo were working together. And Ben Horn is tied up in the middle of the mix. Plus, Hank Jennings gets out of prison, much to the dismay of Norma. And we also find out that Hank Jennings and Leo were working together, and also that Hank Jennings left that domino message on the paper for Jocelyn Packard and tells her a very mysterious phone message. You got my message. And it's a message, like I told you guys, Jocelyn probably did not want to receive. So,
yeah.
yeah,
So
if that helps you get it going.
yeah. So we'll save that part for last because that's the really good
Well,
part.
that's how it ended, too. That's how the
Yeah.
episode ended.
So I'll kind of start with like my thoughts on the Jacoby interview, which I love this scene because it does play into the fact that oftentimes investigations can be stymied by the whole client-patient confidentiality clause. Although to be honest, there's more than a few good cases where that shit gets thrown out because we just got to get this guy and screw legal precedents.
One also I'll add here too, to sort of throw you off of the story because of the show's quirkiness that Mark Frost and David Lynch worked on. You have while Dale Cooper is asking the questions to Lawrence Jacoby, he's doing the magic trick with the balls where he's holding the two golf balls, hits his face, and he has the one come out of his mouth. So it's almost like a misleading technique to get you to laugh while missing the whole point of them talking about the story. Because again, Dr. Jacoby's a goofball, but at the same time, he's right. He can't talk about Laura without.
Well, actually, I think that was Jacoby giving him a subtle hint to try to bypass client-patient confidentiality by giving him a visual metaphor, like, I'm doing this magic trick. Nothing is as it seems, which is kind of an apropos metaphor for like the whole case in general.
Well, yeah, that's true. Good observation, because I never looked at it like that.
Because I mean, that's a reference to like magic, like the scene in Labyrinth where Garrett Geralt, the Goblin King, is always rotating those three orbs, which are kind of symbolic of like his kingdom, but also magic in general, because it's a meditation thing for magic. So Jacoby doing that with like the golf balls is kind of like him pointing out to Cooper, there's like two truths here, but nothing is ever going to be as it seems in this town. Which
Yeah.
Cooper being Cooper, I have a feeling he may have picked up on that. It's just he's trying to tell him indirectly there are things I can say and things I can't say.
One I didn't make the call back to top with the scene too. What's the one thing that Jacoby said exactly like the dancing little man in the scene, where he first meets Laura, and it's like, this is my cousin. She's filled with secrets. Laura had secrets, and it's
Yeah.
like it was almost said in the exact same way, even though the midget was talking in reverse, almost said in the exact same way. And I noticed that this watch through. I'm like, that's actually a very good callback.
Well, and Bobby brings that up at the funeral too, where he says
Oh yeah,
we all knew what was going on, but nobody ever said anything.
yeah.
Again, I love how Dr. Jacoby, of all people, is kind of playing the Twin Peaks Alex Jones here. He's saying the truth, but as everybody hears it, but will they act on it? Will they do what they have to?
One thing, since you mentioned the last episode, quite the removal from the last episode too, where Jacoby showed up after the funeral was over, and you had Cooper watching the graveyard, and him talking to Jacoby, and Jacoby, who let his hair down at the moment, said, where he told the truth about how he really cared about Laura, and Laura changed all that, but then we're back to the same old Dr. Lawrence Jacoby who we know, and it's like a completely different tonal shift. How Laura and him probably acted way different than he did with his other patients.
Well, and again, it kind of shows the impact Laura had. I mean, again, he's probably doing this, trying to cover up the fact to both to himself and everybody else that yeah, Laura's death hurt. That hit him hard, and it feels like he's still trying to put on the Lawrence Jacoby act. But you're going to see down the road, this was a huge moment for him, and I kind of get the feeling him trying to relay this message to Cooper in his own inimitable fashion, trying to pretend, I'm still Jacoby for I'm putting on the show of being Jacoby for everyone else, but at the same time, I'm trying to give you the message you're going to need. It's kind of one of the most Jacoby moments we're going to get up until around season 2 or so.
Yeah.
But then we also have them finding getting the tip off to the one-armed man, giggity, being at the Great Northern.
Oh no, Timber Falls Motel.
Oh, Timber Falls.
It was a motel right outside Twin Peaks.
But I love that a certain somebody just happens to be there with his arch nemesis slash frenemy at the same time.
Yep.
And of course, they're as they're going in to basically rush the door and get the guy. Andy does the most Andy thing possible and drops his revolver.
Well, like I said too, you had Cooper and Sheriff Harris Truman at the ready. Andy drops his gun because he didn't even have it out yet. He's fiddling with it in his holster, and it drops and goes off. And at the same time too, like I was saying as well, not only are Catherine Martell and Benjamin Horn in a motel room across the way, you had Jocelyn there in a really quick scene in a car taking pictures of them. So it's like people watching other people, all sort of interconnected but relating to different things.
Well, yeah, and it says a lot, that what's her name, Mrs. I forget her name, the lady who was with Mr. Horn, that she
Catherine Martell.
Catherine Martell would be holding this clandestine meeting at the same place and time when she knows this guy's probably going to get busted by the cops. And if you think Jocelyn just magically figured this out to try to get dirt on her, no, she's being led. I mean, let's be honest, Mrs. Mattel's been ahead of that girl the whole way. There's no way this is all accidental.
Well, not only that, Jocelyn Packard thought she was just as smart and good. I mean, not to say about it, but with the later episodes we saw where she's trying to play this thing of the victim. I mean, I have no doubt that, without ruining it for you guys till we get to that point, I have no doubt that she was really scared and didn't want to have the things happen to her. But she was willing to prove, and we're not there yet. But when we get to those points in the upcoming episodes, as well into the second season, she does this because she just gets frightened by anything that will get her to go back to her old life. But again, she plays the innocent, but what you'll learn about Josie Jocelyn Packard is she also craves the power. It's funny how she'll hide the power through her fear, but Cooper also tries to tell other people throughout the show that he was aware that there was more to Josie than met the eye that other people did not
Well,
want to see.
and again, just like with Laura, he sees the obvious lies behind Josie, but he just cannot allow himself to accept it because happy endings.
Yep.
But I need something for my happy endings, Mr. Cooper.
Yeah. Well, not only that, also the Harry Truman who does the same thing because we made the parallel
Yeah.
within the recent episode between Harry and him. But again, without ruining it, because we're not there yet. I mean, if you guys know the show, you know what we're talking about. But just for any newcomers here, if you want to like going on the ride, I want to spoil the ride too early and have to regurgitate it too. Because more than likely, if we ever come back to these again, we'll regurgitate different things and stuff that we've seen or what they do with the stylizing of the characters.
Well,
But
it's also kind of funny that Josie's trying to use God, what was the name of that one cop she's manipulating?
Harry Truman.
Harry Truman and Dale Cooper, and she's kind of making the same mistake Cooper is because yeah, Cooper's a smart guy, but and he's used to like a lot of the big city crime. But again, this is a small town; things work differently.
Mm-hmm.
And Josie again is making the exact same mistake he is. It's like she's used to the big hustle bustle crime of like China influenced triads in Hong Kong.
Yep. And
But this is
probably
a
in the
small
city
town.
of Seattle and all that. Yeah, small town.
It kind of reminds me of like Higurashi. You know how they kept sending all these specialized Uber police from like Interpol and whatnot, and yet it's like it's a small town. They know there's like a crime family, but they've never dealt with this kind of crime. These it's like you're only used to the really big stuff, and it's the big stuff is always organized differently than all the small town things. It's actually kind of neat to see how everybody's got their assumptions, but their assumptions are always leading them astray.
Well, to your point there that you just got over, even the small towns can have big time corruption. And again, you'll learn that through the first two seasons here, the prequel movie, Fire Walk with Me, and even season three, where small towns can look nice on the surface, but below that, you never know what you see.
And that's the funny thing. It's in a sense, it's got similarities to the big town crime, but it's organized and managed differently. It's not. It's got its own way of doing things, and I just love that. That's the thing that keeps throwing these people off. And again, Josie's playing the victim, but if she gets sent back to Hong Kong, she's not going to be playing the victim. She's going to be the victim.
Yeah. And anyway, like you said, we're there at the motel because we went on a Josie tangent there. Like they go in and find the one-armed man.
Now, oh yeah, but before we get to that, Mr. God, I'm blanking. Oh, Mr. Horn, he decides he's gonna wash up for a bit, and he drops a little something important from his coat, a chip from the one-eyed Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Mrs. Mattel, being the eagle-eyed little manipulator she is, notices this and pockets the evidence.
Yep.
Which again really just shows the difference between Horn and Mattel as far as being the town manipulators goes.
Yep. Well, because again, they're both vying for control of the town for the Ghostwood Mill.
And I mean, again, for reasons that we're gonna discuss heavily later on, you're gonna find out just how good she's been playing everybody, and I mean everybody in Twin Peaks. But that's again later on.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, going into the arrest, before we get there, if you watch the scene really closely where he drops his gun, you can see the difference in everyone's firearms. Like Cooper has a very nice, modified, almost 44 looking revolver. And he even mentions later on in the episode that, yeah, he's had a few customizations done on it. which, by the way, Hawk notices almost immediately at the gun range.
Yeah, well, because like he said, it is a 38 special, but it's been modified for certain specifications.
And I mean, it kind of makes sense, you know. I mean, he's an FBI dude. Hawk looks like he's almost wielding something just short of like a 357 Magnum because I mean he's freaking Hawk, and of course Andy's having trouble with a basic snub nose. I mean, come on. How did they agree to let this guy on the force? I'd almost say get the Mr. Pesto girlfriend to fill in for him because she'd probably do a better job of shooting people at least. But anyways, yeah, they break in. You know, they start questioning the one-armed man, and you know, little mild spoiler warning. Again, kind of like with Josie, they're on the right track, but they're not quite there. Like they know they kind of have some of the pieces, but they don't know how to get them to fit together. Yeah, they got a one-armed man, and his friend is named Bob, but it's not the Bob. It's not the right one-armed man. They're kind of on the right track, but not quite there. It's
But it's Bob Lydecker, veterinarian, who's in a coma, which is why he was in the hospital.
well, and that's the funny
That's
thing,
Bob.
and that's the funny thing because, in a sense, it did lead them close. Like Cooper's on the right track, but again, it shows like the difference between him and the true masterminds. Cooper, he picks up on these things quickly. You know, he's a sharp mind, he's a quick wit, but it just shows the difference between him and the true killers.
Well, because it goes in always a different direction. It always leads them
Yeah.
close, but off in another way.
But I mean, it is kind of funny because you can see Cooper is definitely a sharp guy. It's just there is a very sizable gap between his quick learning and just the absolute world of experience of who he's going to be going up against.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really a neat scene because I mean, this guy clearly has no idea what's going on, but he handles it pretty well considering he just had heard a gunshot outside and had three cops bust in. And I love the dude too. It's like shoes. Yeah, after my accident, this is what I started selling. They're all left shoes. These are my display models. Now, if you're willing to sign a contract, I'm sure I could you know outfit your entire department. And it's kind of funny too because the '90s were like because it's kind of a touching reference to the idea of the late '80s and '90s were the death of like the door-to-door salesman. I mean, most of you watching this probably don't remember that, but I remember that. I remember the Mary Kay people coming to your door all the time. So it's actually kind of funny to see something like this for me because I remember that and it makes sense. You know, it's like, of course, they're all just left shoes. These are just the display models. Once you sign the contract, then you get, you know, the pairs. I mean, it's just a little touch, but it's just something I love about it. And again, you know, we see them trying to follow the pieces they have, but Cooper's he's got the right idea. He's just kind of on the wrong path.
Yeah, which the one armed man whose name is also Philip Michael Gerard, you know, basically he said that I did have a tattoo on my right arm where I lost my right arm. It said mom, and he starts weeping uncontrollably, or
Well,
in my opinion, laughing, but who
it
knows?
also kind of shows another flaw in that, well, kind of sort of flaw in Cooper's thinking because this is a small town. Coincidences like this are going to be everywhere. And I mean, heck, to give you an idea, our friend Mr. Warburton, he's not the only Mr. Warburton in this town. There's like five families of Warburtons. Almost all of them have multiple people with the same name, and most of them live within like a few blocks of each other. Like you could literally toss a dart on a map of Tucson, and you will hit anywhere it lands is going to hit around five of these dudes. I told him if there is a Camille cloning facility full of US somewhere out there in Tucson, I will eat my hat. Because there's just got to be like a facility somewhere with a buttload of Mr. Warburtons all lined up.
Yeah,
But anyways, it's kind of like that, you know. Like if you go to small towns, shit like that's going to happen.
hmm
I mean, heck, I went to more than a few Mexican restaurants, and every time we go there with Mr. Warburton, somebody knows him and his grandpa. It's like, dude, is grandpa really that big of a deal in this town? It's like, we'll talk. But it's kind of that sort of thing. It's like, you know, it's almost like, my God, you killed my father. You have any idea how little that narrows it down?
mm,
Small town, shit like this is going to happen all the time. But hey, kudos to Cooper for trying. And of course, after seeing Andy's performance issues with his firearm, he suggests they do some weapons training, which honestly he probably should have recommended from the beginning. I mean, we know Hawk doesn't need it. We know Coop doesn't need it. Andy fucking needs it. Get him some Second Amendment Viagra.
Well, again, when he shoots his gun at the
Yeah, yeah, really. You can tell Andy has never done any real police work in his life, but God bless him, he is trying. Which again, kind of reminds me of Higurashi, how they only had how it was so small. They only had one woman who was willing to be a
Well,
teacher, and she had to ask one of the students to help her out.
well, from what we've seen of the show and what we've been watching already together for these reviews, and what we know of the show, having seen it a couple times with several of our friends, you notice how Andy, even though he knows of the bookhouse, is never really clarified if he's a bookhouse boy. He knows where the bookhouse is, but who
Yeah.
knows if he ever was a part of that group?
Well,
Because Ed is, Hawk definitely is, Truman definitely is, Andy.
I think it's probably like one of those Knights of Columbus situations where like you can't be a full-fledged member, but you can be like an auxiliary member.
Yeah, it could
You'll
be.
Yeah, you'll be like the guy bringing like the Vidalia onions to the Shriner cookout. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're not a full member, but hey, if you could get the shit moved from one place to another for us, that'd be great. Because let's be honest, nobody's gonna trust Andy
Oh,
to do a bust.
and to help you with another big part, because I forgot to mention this when I was recapping the episode for you. I forgot this is where Audrey Horne makes her moves, where she only talks to Donna, but then also
Yeah,
gets her father to make her, I want to help you with the family business thing to get, closer to what happened to Laura so she can impress Special Agent Dale Cooper.
yeah, and I mean this is also again another kind of reference to Marilyn Monroe because again, this kind of reminds me of like how people were after, and to this day still are, trying to solve the case of Marilyn Monroe and what really happened. And I find it kind of interesting that it's Donna who's suggesting this because for those of you who don't know, one of the more famous deaths that happened back around that time period was the death of Richie Valens. Who was he in love with? A girl named Donna. Oh, yeah, La Bamba. I know somebody's watched that out there. Great movie, by the way. But yeah, and if I remember, I think what's his name? Who's the other one? Not Chubby Checker. Buddy Holly. I think he also dated a Donna. So it's kind of neat to see. And plus, they kind of mention how, oh, you've got your eyes on it's like, oh, I have a dream. I got a dream a handsome white knight will take me on his steed out of this town. And it's like Cooper, the special agent, it's like, yeah, at this scene I'm just like, girl, don't get your hopes up. That kind of dream never pans out. Not to mention Cooper's already got a few princesses in line ahead of you, so but it's kind of one of those things you see in this town, the girl wanting to get away, hoping the handsome dude on a valiant steed or maybe a nice Cadillac will get her out of there. Heck, that was Yukiko Amagi's whole character in Persona 4. And yeah, that basically kind of ended in a very interesting way if you do that social link all the way. Spoilers. But it's just kind of a neat thing to see because, again, everybody's trying to deal with their guilt over not helping Laura when she needed it. Some in more positive ways than others, because honestly, the best thing Audrey could do is get away from her dad in the lodge. Instead, she's going to hang out at the lodge and work there for information. Oh, that's going to lead to so
Well,
many
not
bad.
necessarily the lodge, but his department store, which
Yeah.
was connected to the perfume counter, which
Well, and
she's thinking is connected to One Eye Jack's.
And given what they talked about, how the perfume counter may have been a bit of a recruiting staple for certain jobs at the One Eyed Jacks, this is a very stupid decision. I mean, if you have even the slightest inkling they're recruiting girls for service work at certain types of jobs, maybe stay away from them.
Yeah. Well, remember when you're trying to impress somebody and also,
Yeah.
as we said, vie for your father's attention or get back at your father, which I think is what Audrey was also doing.
Well, and it's also kind of a stupid misconception on her part because Cooper isn't going to look at this gesture in this way. He's just going to think, oh, she's concerned about her friends. She wants to help out with the case. She doesn't understand how Cooper's going to perceive this, even if it
Well,
works.
well, and without ruining it, we know he's already talked to her a couple times already about
Yeah,
doing these types of things, and also that Audrey, like you said, I agree with you that Audrey also wants to get out of Twin Peaks, but she's looking for that white knight to do so, the very beyond man of your dreams, which is always too good to be
yeah.
true. And again, the roads that can lead down, oh boy.
And in all fairness, it's also kind of Cooper's fault because asking her for information, confiding about the case. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that gets girls' imaginations
Yeah.
working at that age.
Well, again, that was Cooper being friendly, and she took that as, oh wow, he likes me. Let me try to help out. And
Yeah.
well, again, what's one of Cooper's biggest weaknesses in the show? You realize that doesn't become a big weakness later on. But again, we know what happens to him later on. But
Mm,
it's women. His
yeah.
biggest weakness is women.
Well, hey, I mean, he's not the only superhero whose weakness is women. Batman.
Ugh,
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. And again, it highlights the fact that Cooper is not only not understanding the small town mindset just yet, although he does love it to his credit, he's also not understanding how women think about these things. I mean, she's a young girl, she's at that age. He's a big, strong, capable FBI agent. I mean,
yeah.
come on.
Well, and again, one thing they don't play into personally, but they play in character wise that Dale Cooper is a very young agent. Because
Yeah,
like even Tom McLaughlin said in the special features, I was still only 20 something years old at the time. He was still a very young man, and they're saying they wouldn't hire a FBI agent to be a special agent this early on a case of this magnitude that could involve multiple murder.
well,
But like they said, they were playing on how the special cases, maybe his training. And they don't mention it really ever, but they sort of imply it. And it's implied that he's a great agent. He really is good, but he's also this young man
yeah.
who's still a bit big for his britches.
Well, and this is exactly why they usually reserve cases, or hell, even being special agents for older individuals. Heck, that's the reason why one of the requirements to be president is like you have to be 35 or older and a natural born U.S. citizen, is because if you're too young, this kind of stuff can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, happened to Bill Clinton, Oval Office. But anyways, yeah, and it also
Young boy.
well, dude, isn't it funny? Hillary Clinton wanted to be president in the same office where Bill was getting his hill on.
Yeah.
Anyways, one thing I kind of love about the whole police side plot is it kind of looked like they weren't doing their shooting practice at the sheriff's office. It looked like they were doing it at the bookhouse, which I kind of love.
Oh no, they were in the basement.
Oh, okay, the basement.
Yeah, the basement is where the shooting range is.
Okay, it did kind of look a little ramshackle, but I mean, hey, it's a small town.
Yeah.
But anyways, now we get to the part I really, really want to talk about. The Mrs. What's her name's husband getting out of jail.
Norma Jennings, husband Hank Jennings.
Yeah, this is, there's a lot to go over. Like, number one, I love the fact that the parole board asked her, are you, going to help him with his rehabilitation once he gets out? And of course, wanting to make this relationship work. And I give her credit. She steps up as a wife and yeah, I run the double R. I can get him a job. And it's a very, very nice thing she's trying to do. But as we're gonna see very soon, his mind isn't gonna possibly be on his work so much as his real work. Because you'll notice in the scene he's got a domino and it's a double three. Now I admit I kind of forgot what this meant. I had to look it up online, but it's kind of a gang sign for we're gonna do some pretty serious. We're gonna put you through some pretty serious pain, oftentimes usually involving stabbing. And what's the warning little Miss Happy Endings gets when she's doing her maid work? Oh, a picture of a domino with a double three, and then she gets a call from someone. Did you get my message? I want to see what your insides look like. Turn to page 18. I know some of you know what that means. Arguably some of the best DLC in the new Mortal Kombat, ironically. But anyways, yeah, they're kind of setting up the scene that Mr. Jennings is oh, he's going to be doing work, but it's probably not going to be at the double R, if you catch my meaning. And hey, going to be pretty hard for Josie to be giving Dale Cooper happy endings when she's about to get a bad one. Very hard, and
Sorry.
not the ones she's worried about. At least not entirely, anyways.
Well, yeah, and indeed, and not to mention how you said with how like that is with how it's a prison thing that he had. Not to mention that when he called her and hung up the phone, that Hank Jennings is sucking on the double
Yeah.
domino like seductively and sinisterly.
Now I'll admit, like, if it was a big town, if he had like that little domino piece with him, they probably would have denied his parole and sent him right back because they would have known what that means. But that's why he's lucky it's a small town and nobody gets the double three domino reference. So you have to hand him credit. He probably knew they were going to send people who had no idea. So hey, other if it had been a big town, back to the big house. But hey, good thing for him, it's a small town.
Well, then one final thing that I'll add that for you, you forgot to mention for yourself that I added onto it was that how after Audrey Horne was done sort of like duping her father with all the lovey-dovey stuff, which part of me believes she meant it, other part is that she fooled her father. But at the same time, he gets, when he's done talking to her, he gets a phone call and he says, whatever it is, I'll be right there. And this is after he was with Catherine Martell at the hotel. It's like in the evening and he gets there and apparently it's Leo Johnson who was waiting there, and Ben Horn actually scares Leo Johnson, and then
Ah,
they're basically going over what they needed to do. Leo, because Jacques Renault's missing, Leo got Jacques Renault into Canada because Jacques knew the cops were onto him. His brother Bernie made bail. Apparently, though, Leo killed Bernie since the Renault brothers are screwing up, and Jacques is hidden. Bernie was murdered by Leo, and he's like I said, he's rolled up dead in a carpet. But you have Benjamin Horn and Leo showing how deep Benjamin Horn is into this thing, knowing that him and Hank are drug dealers. He mocks him for being a drug dealer, but he's like, "Hey, I'm trusting you because you have this type of dirty work." And Leo's like, "The mill." He's like, "Yeah, it needs to look like an accident and not arson." And he pays him half the money now, and he says he'll get the half of the money later. So I just love the scene because it's these two, in very well senses, you want to believe Ben Horn's a good guy, but yeah, this is as villainous as Ben Horn gets. And believe me, the rabbit hole for Ben Horn goes a little deeper for him, and it's like, yeah, you
oh
were
yeah.
always in fingers
Oh,
pies.
and I forgot. Is this the one where they were interviewing Mrs. Leland?
Oh, yes, at the beginning,
Ah,
I'm surprised you didn't mention that, where she said, because
yeah,
remember, it's where the previous episode she had the dream where she
yeah.
remembered Bob.
Yeah, this is another neat little thing where they're interviewing Mrs. Leland and talking to her about the dream and the man in the dream. Spoiler: it's Bob. Now, what's interesting is Dale does not go to this interview because him having like similar visions and him kind of going full to bet on us.
Strong sender, like you said, yeah.
Yeah, he's worried like he'll send his vision to her and it'll interfere. But I love how he looks at the pictures like the eyes were a little bit closer to my vision. But the neat thing about this scene is Mr. Leland comes down and he tells her, "Oh, why didn't you tell them about the necklace?"
Yeah.
Now
Well, mockingly, of course, too. Like he wasn't supportive,
yeah.
like he's thinking his wife's crazy.
Well, and the thing is, I kind of get the impression this is the influence of Bob in him. Twisting the knife to Mrs. Leland because you can see she's already struggling to talk about this, and then of course he has to bring up the necklace, and this is
And
again.
Donna is also there, so she hears this and she's like, "What? The necklace is missing?"
Yeah, which again, remember she tried hiding that.
Yeah, her and James buried it in the forest.
So the fact that it's already been found indicates that somebody else knows, given Donna's reaction, I kind of wonder if she knows it was Bob or at least somebody who is connected to Bob. And this really is going to set a lot of things in motion. but it's again we're starting to see all the little house cards in the house of cards start to collapse nice and
Oh,
slow.
yeah, and come together as they're collapsing. Well, since it seems like we got through the meat of it, who are your characters for this one, Paul?
Ooh, let me
Because
think.
I had quite a few too, believe me.
Oh yeah. Honestly, Dale again was another.
Oh yeah, Kyle McLaughlin, Special Agent Dale Cooper. Yeah,
And it's kind of a shame we don't see him in more stuff because he's an amazing actor. I mean, he's stealing scenes left and right in this. Uh, Let me think. Who else? God, there were so many in this one. Honestly, Audrey and Donna were also
yeah.
really good in this.
Well, yeah. Well, Donna, I didn't mention. Donna was a Dark Horse favorite. I didn't mention her, but let me find her first since I didn't mention her. I think she on the next page or no. Laura Flynn Boyle, Donna Hayward. Yeah,
Yeah, I
and then
mean,
Sharon Fenn who played Audrey Horne.
they honestly played off each other really, really well.
And that
It's
bathroom scene, yeah, that was well done.
Mr. Horn, of course, is another good standout.
Richard Beamer, Benjamin Horne, yep, that he was really good in this episode.
I mean, he's going to have a lot of great moments. And of course, Dr. Jacoby just going full Grateful Dead on us.
Yeah, and I'll say here, Russ Tamblyn, Dr. Lawrence Jacoby.
And of course, Mrs. Leland, because, man,
Grace Zabriskie, Sarah Palmer, she was also on my list for this episode too.
I mean, and kind of a dark horse one for me would be Andy, because honestly, this guy plays awkward.
Harry Goes, Deputy Andy Brennan, yep.
I mean, really small part, but like the girlfriend, God, I keep forgetting her freaking name.
Well, Lucy Moran, Kimmy Robertson.
But I mean, if you're familiar with Kimmy Robertson as an actor, then you know she's very, very good at these sorts of roles.
Yeah, and apparently, from what people say, is she sort of talks like the schoolgirl with the high pitched voice, but her voice is high pitched, but not as high pitched as she's always made it out with her characters. So that's always been a thing. Kimmy Robertson, I think, has added with all her roles.
Well, it just kind of accentuates the eccentricness of all the characters she plays.
Yeah. Well, then, anyone else, or is that it for you?
I mean, Hawk's part was kind of small in this one.
Yeah, but Michael Horse, Deputy Tommy Hawk Hill.
But I mean, again, he's a great actor, and Joshi is also a really good one.
Yep, Joan Chen, Jocelyn Packard, she also made it on my list too.
Now, granted, though, her best stuff is coming down the road, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
And well, I guess maybe Mr. Jennings, but more
Chris Mulkey, Hank Jennings, yeah, he was also on there.
More due to that creepiness of this guy. I mean,
oh yeah,
going from like the I've learned my lesson to just the taste of murder. So
well, yeah. Well, again, and see, because I always said when I first watched the show, I never caught that when Benjamin Horne's talking to Leo, he mentions Hank, and then you're like, oh, and then when a few scenes later, Jocelyn Packard gets that call, and the world for her is all distorted and sideways. Yeah. And again, when the phone rings, the bear being right there, the predator and prey motif for the predator's right behind her, and she's frightened. I mean, that whole thing of where he just played it so well. The music that Angela Badalamenti played, and then just sucking on the domino, and the whole thing of her seeing that picture and just like, you get my message? Yes. Good.
And you know what's funny about that too, with like the bear being behind her?
What?
It's like a reminder of how afraid she is to go back to Hong Kong because Hong Kong was independent at the time, but it was still in the shadow of communist China. And as we know, who are one of their biggest friends and quote unquote allies? The cold bear of the north, Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And also, bears are pretty scary predators in fucking Asia. So
yeah, oh yeah.
I know y'all think pandas are cute and cuddly, but when they're angry, bad news.
Well, any bear can be, yeah, especially if their cubs are near. Never go near an adult bear when they have cubs.
I mean, heck, why do you think Heihachi Mishima trains bears in kung fu?
Yeah, we basically almost pretty much said everybody on my list. A few mentions that I'll give again for you guys if you guys wanted to hear what I said, and I'll throw on this back page here a bit. I think there were a few people on the front you didn't mention. Those are the ones that really stuck out. Again, Eric DeRay, Leo Johnson. I thought he was good as like the middle villainous man for this one. Piper Laurie, Catherine Martell, just her being sinister and in the bed and doing all the things she's doing. She's still spying on Jocelyn Packard and in her own way at this moment. And I had to also give a nod to Al Strobel, the one-armed man, or as we'll come to know him, Philip Michael Gerard, to where, it's sort of a hammy role this time around, but he just does it so good. And when we get to know him more, and you'll know, because if you guys heard, we saw him as Mike. So is he Mike? Is he not? But he will have some very good stuff coming up here in just like a handful of episodes. So he will definitely have great moments to shine. But overall, Jherick, got any final thoughts on the episode?
Oh yeah, it's a great episode. Again, a very good one for setting things up, world building, and also again a lot of good character studies. We have to see Mattel being the puppet master that she is. Horn thinking he's basically going to pull a fast one and finally get that big score he's looking for. Audrey and Donna definitely getting in over their heads, but
Yeah.
I mean, hey, small girls in a small town.
Yeah.
Leo being Leo, and good lord, is he going to meet an apex predator down the road?
Oh yeah.
And of course, everybody's favorite weird, quirky boy, Cooper, being going full Cooper.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, yeah, and I could.
Oh, and one last recommendation for you kiddos. If you can't get enough Twin Peaks goodness, maybe check out Deadly Premonition. Now on Switch and Steam, but it doesn't work on Steam, so get the Switch version.
Well, alrighty, guys. With that being said, we'll leave it there. This is 012 Boku and
Special Agent Jackass.
And we came at you with another review of Twin Peaks with Jherick's takes. We'll see you guys again soon, all right? Till then, see ya.
Deuces.